The funeral home called me and said, "We're so sorry for your loss, we're ready to discuss your mother's arrangements." I said, "I'm sorry, what?" "I am the mother." There was silence. Then, "Your daughter-in-law is here right now planning your funeral. She has a death certificate." I felt my heart stop. I got in my car. When I arrived, she was picking out my casket and froze when she saw me walk through the door. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from, and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you my story. I was at the Kroger on Summer Avenue deciding between chicken breasts and thighs for dinner, when my phone rang. Unknown number. Memphis area code. Normally I'd let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "This is Patricia Williams." "Mrs. Williams, this is David Green from Serenity Memorial Funeral Home." The man's voice was gentle, practiced in delivering condolences. "We're so sorry for your loss. We're ready to discuss your mother's funeral arrangements whenever you're available to come in." I stopped mid-reach for a package of chicken. "I'm sorry." "What?" "My mother passed away 20 years ago." A pause. "Oh, I apologize. Let me check my paperwork." I heard papers shuffling. "It says here Patricia Williams, aged 62, passed away Tuesday evening. We're currently meeting with family about funeral arrangements." My blood went cold. "I am Patricia Williams. I'm 62 years old, and I'm not dead." The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. When David spoke again, his voice had changed completely. Confused. Almost frightened. "Ma'am, I don't understand. Your daughter-in-law is here right now. In my office. She's been here for over an hour planning your funeral." "What daughter-in-law?" "Vanessa Williams. She said she's your son's wife. She has a death certificate, official documentation from the county registrar, medical examiner's report. Everything appears completely legitimate." My heart was pounding now. "What name is on that death certificate?" "Patricia Ann Williams, age 62. Listed cause of death is heart failure on Tuesday, September 17th. Today was Thursday, September 19th. According to this death certificate, I'd been dead for 2 days." "Mr. Green, I don't know what's happening, but I can assure you I'm very much alive. I'm standing in a grocery store right now holding a package of chicken. I'm looking at her right now through my office window," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "Your daughter-in-law, she's going through casket catalogs. Mrs. Williams, if you're really alive, then we have a serious problem here. This could be fraud. This is definitely fraud." "What's she doing right now, this very second?" "Choosing between a bronze casket and a mahogany one. She just asked about ivory lining. She's discussing what kind of flowers you would have liked. She was planning my funeral." My funeral. While I stood here breathing, thinking very much alive, "I'm coming there right now," I said. "Don't let her leave. Don't tell her I called. Just keep her there." "Mrs. Williams, I think I should call the police immediately." "Do that too, but I'm coming. Right now." I abandoned my grocery cart in the middle of the poultry section and ran for my car. Serenity Memorial Funeral Home was a 15-minute drive from the Kroger, across Memphis to a quiet street near the university. I made it in 10, running 2 red lights and doing 60 in a 45 zone. My mind was racing the entire way, trying to make sense of what was happening. Vanessa was at a funeral home planning my funeral. She had a death certificate, a fake one obviously since I was driving my car and very much alive. But why? What was the end game here? Unless Vanessa was trying to have me declared legally dead. I thought about my assets. I'd worked as a nurse for 40 years at Baptist Memorial Hospital, the same hospital where I'd supposedly died according to this fake death certificate. Retired 5 years ago with a decent pension and savings. My house in Whitehaven was paid off, worth about $400,000 in today's market. I had $150,000 in retirement savings from the hospital's 401k plan, and a life insurance policy from my late husband Robert's employer for $100,000. Robert had died 5 years ago from a heart attack, and I'd used part of his life insurance to pay off the house. My son Devon was the beneficiary of everything. He was my only child, born when I was 27 years old. If I died, Devon would inherit everything, and Vanessa controlled Devon. She'd been controlling him since before they got married 3 years ago. I'd seen it happening, watched my independent son become more and more submissive to her demands, watched him stop seeing his friends, stop pursuing his hobbies, stop making decisions without her approval. If I was declared legally dead, they could collect the insurance money, sell my house, drain my retirement accounts, and where would that leave me? Would I have to fight to prove I was alive? How did you even do that? I thought about the stories I'd heard. People declared dead by mistake, spending years trying to correct government records, unable to get jobs, open bank accounts, access their own money. Is that what Vanessa wanted? To trap me in bureaucratic limbo while she stole everything I'd worked for? I pulled into the parking lot of Serenity Memorial. It was an elegant building, all brick and columns, surrounded by carefully maintained grounds. A place where Memphis families had been holding funerals for over 50 years. I sat in my car for a moment, hands shaking on the steering wheel. Then I got out and walked toward the entrance. The lobby was hushed, respectful. Soft music playing, something classical and mournful. Fresh flowers in expensive vases. Everything designed to be soothing for grieving families. A young black woman sat at the reception desk. She looked up as I entered, professional smile in place. Good afternoon. How can I? She stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes widened. Her mouth fell open slightly. The color drained from her face. You're Patricia Williams? Yes. I believe David Green is expecting me. But we thought. She couldn't seem to finish a sentence. She was staring at me like I was a ghost that had just walked through the wall. I know what you thought. Where is she? Where is my daughter-in-law? The receptionist stood up, her hands trembling. Consultation room C. With Mr. Green. They're selecting a casket. For you for your funeral. She's selecting my casket while I'm alive? The receptionist nodded mutely. Should I tell them you're here? No. I'll announce myself. I walked past her, following the signs down a quiet hallway lined with tasteful artwork and sympathy cards. Consultation room A. Consultation room B. Consultation room C. The door was slightly ajar. I could hear voices inside. Vanessa's voice, high-pitched and affected, the tone she used when she was trying to impress people. I want something elegant but not too expensive. You understand? She was a simple woman, very practical. Didn't believe in spending money on frivolous things. She would have hated anything too flashy. Of course, a man's voice replied. David Green, presumably. Professional soothing. We have several options in that price range. The bronze casket with ivory lining is quite popular. Dignified but understated, very appropriate for someone who valued simplicity. Perfect. That sounds exactly like Pat. She always said funerals were for the living, not the dead. She would have appreciated the restraint. She was talking about me in the past tense, discussing what I would have wanted, using my supposed values to justify buying a cheaper casket. My supposed values, like she knew me, like we'd been close. Vanessa had never tried to know me. She'd tolerated me at best, resented me at worst, thought I was judging her, criticizing her, interfering in her marriage, which I wasn't. I'd kept my opinions to myself, even when I watched my son become a shadow of himself. But now she was sitting here discussing my funeral preferences like we'd had deep conversations about my end-of-life wishes. And for the service, Vanessa continued, I think Second Baptist Church would be appropriate. That's where she attended. We'll need the sanctuary. She knew a lot of people, probably 100 guests at least. 100 guests, at my funeral. While I was alive, I pushed the door open. The consultation room was tastefully decorated. Large table, comfortable chairs, catalogs spread out showing different caskets, urns, memorial options, soft lighting, a box of tissues on the table. Vanessa sat at the table, designer purse beside her, a bag I knew cost $2,000 because she'd bragged about it at Christmas dinner. She was wearing clothes I knew cost more than my monthly pension check. Perfectly styled hair, professional makeup, expensive jewelry. She looked like she was at a business meeting, not planning her mother-in-law's funeral. Across from her sat a black man in his 50s, well-dressed in a dark suit with a somber tie. David Green. He had a folder open, was taking notes on what Vanessa was saying. He was showing her photos of caskets when I spoke. I'm actually more of a mahogany person myself. Always preferred darker wood. Vanessa's head snapped up so fast I heard her neck crack. The color drained from her face completely. Not gradually, all at once, like someone had pulled a plug and let all the blood out. She stared at me with absolute horror in her eyes. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. She looked exactly like someone seeing a ghost. Pat? Her voice came out as barely a whisper. What are you doing here? Well, Vanessa, I said, stepping into the room and closing the door behind me. I heard someone was planning my funeral. Thought I should attend. Maybe give some input on the casket selection. David was on his feet now. His professional composure shattered. Mrs. Williams? The real Patricia Williams? The one who's supposed to be dead? Yes. Except I'm not dead. As you can see, he was looking between me and Vanessa like he was watching a tennis match, completely bewildered. But the death certificate, the medical examiner's report, is fraudulent, I said flatly. I'd like to see it, please. Vanessa was making small gasping sounds. This isn't... Pat, I can explain. Explain what? I moved closer to the table. Explain how you have a death certificate claiming I died Tuesday. How you're sitting here picking out caskets for a woman who's standing right in front of you, breathing, talking, very much alive. Explain how you're planning to bury me on Saturday when I have a hair appointment Saturday afternoon. David pulled a folder from the table, his hands shaking slightly as he handed it to me. This is the documentation, Mrs. Williams. Your daughter-in-law provided. I opened it. Inside was a death certificate that looked completely official. County seal, medical examiner's signature, all the proper formatting and legal language. Name, Patricia Ann Williams, age 62. Date of death, Tuesday, September 17, 2025, 7:43 p.m. Cause of death, acute myocardial infarction, heart attack. Place of death, Baptist Memorial Hospital, Memphis. TN, medical examiner. Dr. James Patterson. I knew Dr. Patterson. He'd been the medical examiner for Shelby County for 15 years. I'd worked with him on several cases during my nursing career, when patients died under suspicious circumstances. The signature didn't look quite right. Close, but not exact. This is fraud, I said quietly, but my voice was shaking with rage. This is a forged government document. No, Vanessa found her voice, standing up abruptly. It's not fraud. There was a mistake. A terrible, awful mistake. The hospital called us. They said you died. They gave us this paperwork. What hospital, Vanessa? I looked at her directly. I haven't been to a hospital in 6 months. Haven't even had a doctor's appointment. I'm perfectly healthy. Baptist Memorial. They called Devon yesterday afternoon. They said you'd had a massive heart attack, that someone had brought you in Tuesday evening in cardiac arrest, that they did everything they could but you didn't make it. Her story was detailed. Specific. Almost believable. If I hadn't been standing there alive, I pulled out my phone. Let's call Baptist Memorial right now. Clear this up. I'm sure they keep records of all their calls to family members about deceased patients. Wait. Vanessa's voice went up an octave. Why wait? If this is all just a clerical error like you're claiming, the hospital can explain what happened. They can tell us who called, who I supposedly was, when I was brought in. Who identified my body. I was already dialing. Baptist Memorial's main number was programmed into my phone from my 40 years working there. Mrs. Williams. David started. If this death certificate is fraudulent, I said, and I can assure you it is, since I'm the person who's supposedly dead and I'm standing here talking, then this is a very serious crime. Identity theft, fraud, forgery of government documents. Mr. Green, I think you should call the police. I was already planning to, he said, reaching for his desk phone. Vanessa grabbed her phone from the table. I need to call Devon. He'll explain everything. He was there when the hospital called. He heard them say you were dead. Good idea. Call my son. Tell him his supposedly dead mother is here at the funeral home. Tell him the woman who's been dead for 2 days just walked in and started giving opinions on casket wood choices. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely dial. I heard it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. Devon, baby, we have a problem. Her voice was shrill, panicked. Your mom is here. At the funeral home. She's not dead. She's alive. She's standing right in front of me. I couldn't hear what Devon was saying, but Vanessa's face was getting paler by the second. I don't know, the hospital must have made some kind of horrible mistake. But she's here and she's really angry and the funeral director is talking about calling the police and I don't know what to do. She thrust the phone at me like it was burning her hand. He wants to talk to you. I took it. Devon, Mom? My son's voice was shocked, confused, relieved all at once. Oh my God, you're alive. You're really alive. The hospital said. What hospital, Devon? Which hospital supposedly called you? Baptist Memorial. Yesterday around 3 p.m., they said you'd had a massive heart attack, that you'd been brought in by ambulance Tuesday evening around 7:30. That you were already in cardiac arrest when the paramedics found you. That they did CPR and tried to resuscitate you but your heart was too damaged. The story was so detailed, so specific, times, circumstances, Medical details. Someone had put thought into this lie. They asked me to come identify the body, Devon continued. They said they needed family to confirm your identity and sign some paperwork. My heart sank. And did you go identify this body? A long pause. Too long, Vanessa went. She said it would be too traumatic for me. That seeing you like that would be too hard. That she'd handle the identification and the paperwork. She came home around 6 p.m. crying, said it was definitely you. Said you looked peaceful. So you never actually saw this supposed body yourself? No. Vanessa handled everything. She was so upset, so devastated. She cried for hours. I didn't want to push her to talk about it. I trusted her. Devon, I haven't been to Baptist Memorial Hospital. I haven't had a heart attack. I'm standing in a funeral home watching your wife who supposedly identified my dead body yesterday, pick out caskets for me while I'm very much alive and extremely pissed off. This is fraud, Devon. This is a crime. And I want to know why she did it. I don't understand, Mom. I heard the phone call. Someone from the hospital called. They said your name. They said you died. Vanessa showed me the death certificate when she got home. It looked official, because it's a good forgery. But it's still a forgery. Why would Vanessa do this? It doesn't make sense. Doesn't it? Think about what happens if I'm declared legally dead. Silence on the other end. Then a sharp intake of breath as Devon realized. The life insurance, he whispered. The house. Your retirement savings. I inherit everything. Bingo. And who controls you, Devon? Mom? No, Vanessa wouldn't. She couldn't. She's sitting here right now with a fake death certificate, planning my funeral, discussing burial plots. What exactly do you think she would or wouldn't do? I need you to get to this funeral home right now. Serenity Memorial on Poplar Avenue. Right now, Devon, your wife has some explaining to do. I'm leaving work right now. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I ended the call and handed the phone back to Vanessa. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Just stared at the casket catalogs on the table like they might offer her an escape route. David was already on his phone. Yes, I need to report a fraud in progress. Someone is at my funeral home with a fake death certificate trying to plan a funeral for a person who is still alive. He gave the address, described the situation. While we waited for the police, I decided to find out exactly what else Vanessa had planned. What else did you arrange? I asked David. What other plans did you make for my funeral? He checked his notes, looking thoroughly shaken. Full funeral service at Second Baptist Church for Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. We've already contacted the church. They confirmed availability. Burial plot purchased at Elmwood Cemetery, Section D. Plot 2 and 47 near the oak trees. Your daughter-in-law specifically requested that location. That was where Robert was buried. My husband. In Section D, near the oak trees. She was going to bury me next to him. Have our graves side by side, like a loving couple reunited in death. Except I wasn't dead. Flowers have been ordered from Memphis florist. David continued. White roses and lilies. Arrangements for the church and graveside service. Program printing from Quick Print on Madison Avenue. 200 copies, color photo of you on the front. What photo? He pulled out his phone, showed me a proof the printer had emailed. It was a photo of me from last Christmas. I was smiling, wearing a red sweater, looking happy. Devon must have given that photo to Vanessa. It was from a family dinner at my house. They were going to hand out 200 copies of my smiling face at my fake funeral. Reception catering has been arranged through the church, David went on. Light refreshments for approximately 100 guests. Total cost for all services is approximately $15,000. $15,000. How was she planning to pay for that? David glanced at Vanessa, who was now crying silently, mascara running down her face in black streaks. She said she'd be submitting a claim to your life insurance company. That you had a $100,000 policy through your late husband's employer. She said the insurance would cover all funeral expenses and the estate would be settled quickly. Did she mention my house? My other assets? He nodded slowly. She asked if I knew any attorneys who could help expedite the estate settlement process. Said something about needing to get your affairs in order quickly because there was a mortgage that needed to be paid, and she was worried about foreclosure. There was no mortgage. My house had been paid off for 5 years, but that's what she told the funeral director, creating urgency. A reason why the estate needed to be settled immediately. She also asked about death announcements. David continued. Wanted to know if we could help place an obituary in the commercial appeal and online. She had already written it. Show me. He pulled out a piece of paper. I recognized Vanessa's handwriting. Patricia Ann Williams, 62, passed away peacefully on Tuesday, September 17th, after a sudden heart attack. Born in Memphis in 1963, Patricia dedicated her life to nursing, working for 40 years at Baptist Memorial Hospital, where she touched countless lives with her compassion and skill. She is survived by her loving son Devon Williams and daughter-in-law Vanessa Williams. Patricia was preceded in death by her husband Robert Williams. A memorial service will be held Saturday, September 21st at 2:00 p.m. at Second Baptist Church. In lieu of flowers, donations may be made to the American Heart Association. It was a good obituary. Touching, respectful, made me sound like a saint, and it was complete fiction because I was standing there reading it. She tried to think of everything, I said. The death certificate, the funeral arrangements, the obituary, all the details to make it look legitimate. Mrs. Williams, David said quietly, I need to know, what is going on here? Because this is the most disturbing situation I've encountered in 25 years as a funeral director. I think, I said, my daughter-in-law is trying to have me declared legally dead so she can steal my money. Vanessa let out a sob. That's not true. I would never. Then explain the fake death certificate. Explain why you're planning my funeral while I'm alive. Explain why you told my son you identified my body at the hospital when I was never at the hospital. She opened her mouth, closed it. No words came out. The police arrived before she could think of an answer. 2 detectives from the Memphis Police Department entered the consultation room. Detective Harris was a black man in his mid-40s with tired eyes, graying hair and a wedding ring worn smooth from years of wear. He looked like he'd seen everything twice. Detective Moore was a black woman about 38, sharp-featured and observant, taking in every detail of the room with quick, intelligent eyes. I explained the situation, again. Showed them the fake death certificate, explained that I was very much alive and had no idea why my daughter-in-law was planning my funeral. Detective Harris examined the death certificate with the careful attention of someone who'd seen hundreds of them. This is a forgery, he said after a moment. A good one. Better than most I've seen, but definitely fake. The medical examiner's signature is slightly off. See this loop here on the P in Patterson. Dr. Patterson's real signature has a much sharper angle. I've seen his signature hundreds of times on official documents. He pointed to the county seal. And this seal is from an older template. The county updated their seal design 2 years ago. Any death certificate issued in the last 2 years would have the new seal. This is using the old one. Someone went to significant trouble to create this. This isn't amateur hour. This is someone who either has experience forging documents or paid good money to someone who does. Detective Moore turned to Vanessa. Ma'am, where did you get this death certificate? Vanessa was still crying. Makeup completely ruined now. The hospital gave it to me. Baptist Memorial. When I went to identify the body, they handed me all the paperwork. Which hospital employee gave you the paperwork? What was their name? I don't remember exactly. It was a woman at the admissions desk in the emergency room. I was so upset I wasn't paying attention to names. I was crying, I was devastated. My mother-in-law had just died. Except I didn't die, I interrupted. Because I'm standing right here. Detective Moore pulled out her phone. I'm going to call Baptist Memorial right now and verify your story. Mrs. Williams, she stepped into the hallway. I could hear her speaking quietly to someone on the phone, asking about patient records, death records, calls to family members. She came back 5 minutes later, her expression grim. Baptist Memorial Hospital has no record of any Patricia Williams being admitted Tuesday evening or any other time this week. No Jane Does matching Mrs. Williams's description. No deaths by heart failure or cardiac arrest in the 60 to 65 age range at all this week. The emergency room has no record of calling anyone named Devon Williams about a deceased family member. Their phone logs show no outgoing calls to his number on Tuesday or Wednesday. Furthermore, the hospital's morgue has no unclaimed or unidentified bodies. No one matching Mrs. Williams's description has been brought in for identification. Vanessa's face crumpled. That's impossible. They called. I swear they called. I talked to someone who said Pat had died. I went to the hospital. I saw her body. Where? Detective Moore asked sharply. Where in the hospital did you see this supposed body? The morgue. Downstairs. Someone took me down there and showed me. What was their name? The person who took you to the morgue? I don't remember. Describe them. It was a man. Maybe 40 years old, black, wearing scrubs. He said he was sorry for my loss and took me downstairs. What floor is the morgue on at Baptist Memorial? Vanessa hesitated. The basement? Baptist Memorial doesn't have a basement morgue, I said. The morgue is on the first floor, West Wing. I worked there for 40 years, and no one in scrubs takes families to view bodies. That's done by staff in the pathology department, and they wear lab coats, not scrubs. Detective Harris pulled out handcuffs. Mrs. Vanessa Williams, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery of government documents, and attempted insurance fraud. He began reading her Miranda rights. Vanessa started screaming. No, this is a mistake. I didn't do anything wrong. The hospital called. They gave me the paperwork. This is all a misunderstanding. You have the right to remain silent. Detective Harris continued calmly. Devon. Vanessa shrieked. Tell them the hospital called. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. I didn't forge anything. I'm being set up. Someone is setting me up. You have the right to an attorney. The door burst open. Devon rushed in, wild-eyed and panicked. He saw me first. Mom? He crossed the room in 3 strides and wrapped me in a tight hug. Oh my God, you're really alive. You're really okay. I'm fine, baby. I'm perfectly fine. Then he saw Vanessa in handcuffs. Saw the 2 detectives. Saw the death certificate on the table. His face went from relief to confusion to horror. What's happening? Vanessa, what's going on? Your wife is being arrested for fraud, Detective Moore said. She forged a death certificate claiming your mother was dead and has been planning a funeral to submit fraudulent insurance claims. Devon looked at Vanessa like he'd never seen her before. Why? Vanessa, why would you do this? I didn't, she sobbed. The hospital called. They said your mother died. I went and identified the body. This is all some terrible mistake. Baptist Memorial has no record of your mother being admitted, Detective Harris said. No record of calling you. No record of any of this. Your wife is lying. No. Devon, you have to believe me. You heard the phone call yesterday. You were there. Devon shook his head slowly. I heard you say someone from the hospital was calling. But I never talked to them. You answered the phone. You talked to whoever it was and then you told me Mom had died. I never spoke to anyone from the hospital directly, because they called my phone, not yours. Show me the call log, Detective Moore said. Show me the incoming call from Baptist Memorial Hospital on your phone. Vanessa's face went even paler. I deleted it. I delete all my calls. I don't like clutter in my phone. Convenient, Detective Moore said. Very convenient. They led Vanessa toward the door. She was still screaming, still protesting her innocence. I didn't do anything. This is insane. Someone is framing me. Check the hospital records. Make them check again. The door closed behind them, muffling her voice. Devon and I were left alone in the consultation room with David, who looked like he needed a stiff drink. I'm so sorry, David said to me. If I had known, if I had suspected, I never would have. You did exactly the right thing, I assured him. You got suspicious when she showed up claiming to be me. You called the number on file, and you alerted me. You potentially saved me from having my identity stolen and my entire life destroyed. He nodded, but still looked shaken. In 25 years I've never had anything like this happen. Devon was staring at the casket catalogs on the table. She was picking out your casket. Your actual casket. While you were alive. Yes. Why, Mom? Why would she do this? That was the question I'd been asking myself since I got the phone call from David. But I thought I knew the answer. How much debt do you have, Devon? He looked confused by the question. Debt? I don't know exactly. Some credit cards. The usual stuff. Why? Who handles the finances in your marriage? Vanessa. She's better with money than I am. I just work and deposit my paycheck and she pays the bills. When's the last time you looked at a bank statement? A credit card bill? He thought about it. I don't know, maybe a year ago. Vanessa always said she had it under control. I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. Devon, I think you need to check your credit card statements. Your bank accounts. All of it. You think this is about money? I think this is absolutely about money. The question is how much. At the police station the truth started to come out. Detective Moore had searched Vanessa's purse with her reluctant consent, and found things that made everything crystal clear. Multiple documents with my forged signature. Life insurance claim form from Robert's old employer already filled out just waiting to be submitted. Property transfer documents for my house with a signature that looked like mine but wasn't quite right. bank account closure forms for my retirement account at First Tennessee Bank, all with signatures that an expert would immediately identify as forgeries. But that might slip past a busy clerk who processed hundreds of forms a day. There was also a receipt from a place called Quick Copy on Madison Avenue. $800 for document reproduction services paid in cash last Friday, and email printouts, printed conversations with someone whose email address was just a string of random numbers at Gmail, instructions on how to create convincing fake death certificates, discussions about medical examiner signatures, county seals, proper formatting. Your wife has been planning this for at least 3 weeks, Detective Harris told Devon. These emails go back to early September. She's been researching, gathering information, learning how to forge official documents. Devon looked like he might throw up. Why? Just tell me why. Detective Moore opened a laptop, turned it toward us. We accessed her credit card accounts. With her permission, on the screen was a list of credit cards. I counted 8 of them, all maxed out. The balances made my stomach turn. Chase Visa, $15,000. Bank of America MasterCard, $12,000. Discover, $18,000. American Express, $9,000. Capital One, $11,000. Macy's card, $5,000. And Nordstrom card, $8,000. Total $85,000. $85,000 in credit card debt. Devon stared at the screen. That can't be right. We don't have that much debt. Vanessa said we had maybe $5,000 on the cards. These are all in your name or joint accounts. Detective Moore said, you're liable for all of it. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. She handles all the finances. I should have looked, I should have checked, but I trusted her. Detective Harris pulled out more documents. We also found evidence that she'd been in contact with a real estate agent, discussing selling a property on Mayfair Avenue. He looked at me. That's your address, Mrs. Williams? I nodded. She told the agent the property would be available for sale within 2 weeks. Said there had been a death in the family and the estate needed to be settled quickly. The agent did a market analysis, estimated the house could sell for $400,000, possibly more. Devon's voice was barely a whisper. She was going to sell Mom's house. Between the life insurance policy $100,000 and the house sale $400,000. And your mother's retirement account $150,000. She was looking at approximately $650,000. Detective Moore said, enough to pay off the $85,000 in debt and have over $500,000 left. And your mother would be declared legally dead, unable to access her own accounts or property. What was she going to do with me? I asked. After she collected all the money, I'd still be alive. I'd contest being declared dead. I'd go to the police. Detective Harris shook his head. We're still piecing that together. But based on the emails we found, we think she was going to claim you'd moved out of state, Florida or Arizona. Somewhere warm where retirees go. She'd say you wanted privacy after the trauma of being declared dead by mistake, that you were embarrassed and wanted to start over. She'd tell people you didn't want contact with anyone in Memphis, that you'd asked them to respect your wishes and not try to find you. And in a few months after the scandal died down, after people stopped asking questions, you'd just be forgotten, a woman who'd moved away and wanted to be left alone. Meanwhile, she'd have your money, your house, everything. The room was silent. Devon looked at me with tears streaming down his face. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know about the debt. I didn't know she was planning this. If I had known, I know, baby. I know. But part of me wondered, should he have known? Should he have been paying more attention to his finances? His wife? The warning signs? Probably. But I couldn't be angry at Devon. He'd been manipulated too. Lied to, used. Vanessa was the one who'd done this. Who'd forged documents. Who'd planned to fake my death. She was the one who needed to face consequences. In the interrogation room, Vanessa finally started talking. We were allowed to observe through the one-way glass, me and Devon watching as Detective Moore questioned Vanessa. Tell me about the debt, Moore said. How did you accumulate $85,000 in credit card debt? Vanessa's voice was flat, defeated. All the screaming and protesting was gone. Shopping, online shopping mostly. I have a problem. I know I have a problem. What kind of shopping? Clothes? Shoes? Purses? Jewelry? Home decor? Anything? Everything. I'd see something and I'd have to have it. Even if we couldn't afford it. Even if the cards were maxed out. I'd open a new card and keep spending. How long has this been going on? 2 years. Since Devon and I got married. Devon's hand tightened on my arm as we listened. I thought I could control it, Vanessa continued. Thought I could pay it down before Devon noticed. But the minimum payments kept getting bigger. The interest rates were killing us. I was paying $1,000 a month just in minimum payments and the balances weren't going down. When did you decide to fake Patricia's death? A long pause. About a month ago. The debt collectors started calling. 10, 20 times a day. They were threatening to garnish Devon's wages. To sue us. I was panicking. I started thinking about what we could inherit if Pat died. The house, the life insurance, the retirement account. It would solve everything. We could pay off the debt, buy our own house, start over. So you decided to kill her? No, Vanessa looked up sharply. I would never hurt Pat. Never. I'm not a murderer, but you were willing to fake her death. That's different. No one would get hurt. I'd just make everyone think she was dead. Collect the money, and then what? What was your plan for Patricia? Vanessa looked down at her hands. I thought maybe she'd understand, that she'd see how desperate we were, that she'd agree to help us. You thought she'd agree to let you fake her death and steal her money. I thought she'd move away, start somewhere else. Let us say she wanted privacy. Let us have the money. And if she didn't agree, silence. Mrs. Williams, what were you going to do if Patricia refused to cooperate with your plan? I don't know, I didn't think that far ahead. I just knew we needed the money. Desperately, Detective Moore leaned forward. Walk me through your plan. How did you think this would actually work? Vanessa took a shaky breath. I found someone online who could make fake documents, IDs, death certificates, anything. I paid him $800, all the cash I could scrape together. He made me a death certificate and some property transfer forms with Pat's signature. The death certificate looked official. I thought it would pass inspection. Then I was going to call Devon and tell him the hospital had called me. That Pat had died. I'd drive to some random parking lot, pretend I was at the hospital and call him crying. I'd come home with the death certificate and the story about identifying her body. We'd plan the funeral. I'd submit the insurance claim. File the property transfer documents. The whole thing would be done in 2 weeks. We'd have the money before anyone looked too closely at the paperwork. And Patricia? The real living Patricia? I thought she'd understand. I really did. I thought she'd see we were drowning and she'd help us. Let us have the money. Move somewhere else where no one knew her. You thought a 62-year-old woman would voluntarily disappear, give up her home, her money, her entire identity, so you could pay off your shopping debt. Vanessa's voice was tiny. When you say it like that, it sounds insane. It is insane. It's also illegal. Multiple felonies. You're looking at 10 to 20 years in prison. Vanessa started crying again. I know. I was desperate. I wasn't thinking clearly. I just wanted the debt to go away. Through the glass, Devon was shaking. She was going to let everyone think you were dead. Let me grieve for you. Let me bury an empty casket. And then what? You'd just disappear. Start over in Florida. Never see me again? I didn't have an answer, because I didn't know what Vanessa had really been planning. Maybe she genuinely thought I'd cooperate, that I'd be willing to sacrifice my entire life for her shopping addiction. Or maybe she had a darker plan she wasn't admitting to. Maybe she was planning something worse. I'd never know for sure, but I knew enough. My daughter-in-law had tried to erase me, had forged a death certificate, planned my funeral, prepared to steal everything I'd worked 40 years to build. And she'd almost succeeded. If David Green hadn't been suspicious, if he hadn't called me, if I hadn't rushed to the funeral home, she might have pulled it off. I'm Patricia Williams. I'm 62 years old. 2 days ago a funeral home called me. We're ready to discuss your mother's funeral arrangements, I said. I am the mother. There was silence. Then your daughter-in-law is here right now planning your funeral. She has a death certificate. I got in my car, drove to that funeral home as fast as I could. When I walked through the door of Consultation Room C, Vanessa was sitting at a table surrounded by casket catalogs, planning my burial, discussing what flowers I would have liked, writing my obituary. She froze when she saw me, stared at me like a ghost, because according to her forged death certificate, I was supposed to be dead. Heart attack. Tuesday evening, Baptist Memorial Hospital. Except I'd never been to Baptist Memorial. As a patient, I was alive, healthy, standing right in front of her. She'd planned everything. Fake death certificate, created by a professional forger, for $800. Funeral arrangements at Second Baptist Church and Elmwood Cemetery. Property transfer documents ready to file. Life insurance claim form filled out. Real estate agent contacted about selling my house. She had $85,000 in secret credit card debt. Shopping addiction that had spiraled completely out of control over 2 years. She thought if I was declared dead, she could inherit everything. My $100,000 life insurance policy. My $400,000 house. My $50,000 retirement account. Enough to pay off her debt and have $500,000 left. And she thought I'd just cooperate. Move away. Disappear. Let her have my money. My home. My entire life. She was arrested. Charged with fraud, forgery, identity theft, attempted insurance fraud, looking at 10 to 20 years in prison. Devon divorced her, moved back home with me. Is working on rebuilding his life and paying down the debt she created in his name. Me, I'm still here, still living in my house. Still very much alive. Vanessa tried to erase me with a fake death certificate. She learned you can't erase someone who refuses to disappear. I walked through that funeral home door and reclaimed my existence. I'm Patricia Williams, 62 years old, retired nurse, very much alive, and I'm not going anywhere.